This video is based on online discussions and unverified podcast commentary. No medical condition or personal health information about any individual has been confirmed or stated. This content is for commentary purposes only.
Y'all, something is seriously wrong in Hollywood right now. This isn't just another rumor. This isn't just messy celebrity drama. This feels like the kind of story that people whisper about behind closed doors until it explodes. According to multiple insiders, Kanye West is reportedly going through one of the darkest mental spirals of his entire career. And the name being quietly connected to the beginning of this chaos? Teyana Taylor. Sources claim whatever happened between them wasn't just emotional, it was destabilizing. Those close to Kanye describe a man who is no longer sleeping, no longer trusting anyone, and no longer able to separate reality from betrayal. Conversations allegedly stopped making sense. Warnings allegedly started being sent. Panic allegedly replaced control. Industry insiders say meetings were held in silence. Phones stopped ringing. PR teams went ghost. Because when a powerful figure starts unraveling like this, nobody wants to be on record. Behind the scenes, people claim Kanye feels trapped not by one person, but by a situation that spiraled beyond his control. He reportedly believes the truth is being buried to protect images, careers, and money. And here's the chilling part. Those around him allegedly fear that if this pressure continues, the fallout won't stay private. It won't stay quiet, and it won't stay contained. Fans are noticing the changes, the silence, the instability, the cryptic behavior. This isn't entertainment anymore. This feels like a warning. And if even half of what insiders are hinting at is real, Hollywood waited too long.
You're gonna miss us when you gotta go to school.
Well, that's the first time I've heard that, and I don't know what to say. but again, you know, it's all love and.
Y'all, the silence is the loudest part of the story. No press conference, no clean denial, no carefully managed explanation. Just distance, whispers, and a growing sense of panic moving through Hollywood's inner circles. According to multiple insiders, something behind the scenes has pushed Kanye West into one of the most unstable periods of his life, not creatively, not financially, but mentally. And what makes this moment terrifying isn't what he's saying publicly. It's what he's allegedly saying in private. People close to him describe a man who feels cornered, isolated, watched, controlled. They say the confidence is gone, replaced by suspicion and emotional exhaustion. He's not lashing out for attention. He's pulling away, which is far more alarming. Insiders claim this unraveling didn't happen overnight. It began quietly after a connection that was never meant to be public started bleeding into areas it shouldn't have touched. A situation that blurred boundaries. Conversations that allegedly crossed lines. Promises that allegedly were never meant to be kept. And the name being quietly linked to the beginning of that emotional shift is Teyana Taylor. No one is calling it a relationship. No one is calling it a collaboration. They're calling it a complication. According to sources, whatever happened between them created tension that didn't stay personal. It moved into professional spaces, legal conversations, private warnings. People say Kanye began questioning motives, intentions, and loyalty, not just from one person, but from the entire system around him. Those closest to him allegedly noticed changes first. Shorter conversations, sudden mood shifts, a growing obsession with being misrepresented. He reportedly started saying things like, "They're not telling the full story, and if this comes out wrong, it ruins everything." What is this? That's the part nobody will say on record. Behind closed doors, insiders describe emergency meetings. Managers consulting lawyers before speaking. Advisors urging silence instead of statements. Because once a narrative starts forming without control, it can destroy careers faster than truth ever could. And here's where it turns dark. Sources claim Kanye began expressing fear not of backlash, but of being trapped inside a version of events he no longer recognized. He allegedly felt boxed into a corner where speaking made things worse and silence made people suspicious. That kind of pressure doesn't break people loudly. It breaks them slowly. Friends reportedly worried about his emotional stability, not because he was dramatic, but because he was detached. Cold. Unreachable. One insider described it as a man preparing for something he doesn't know how to escape. Meanwhile, the industry did what it always does when things get uncomfortable. It protected itself. Calls were redirected. Narratives were softened. Language became careful. Suddenly, everyone was busy. Suddenly, nobody had details. Suddenly, the same people who once spoke freely stopped answering messages. Because if the story turns ugly, everyone wants plausible distance.
He was like, "Yeah, I want you to hear the album, and I want you to see these pieces that Barmon designed for my next tour." Of course, the Harlem in me is like, getting on that album. I ain't tell him that, but I gotta It was like 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, I don't even wake up that early. And it was God, because I don't even know what made me even like happen to get up and check my email, randomly check my email.
Social media noticed the shift before the headlines did. Fans pointed out the changes, the tone, the absence, the feeling that something was being held back. Speculation grew, not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. And according to insiders, that silence made everything worse. Kanye allegedly interpreted the lack of transparency as confirmation, that people were choosing protection over honesty, that the truth, whatever it was being reshaped without him in the room. That's when the emotional spiral reportedly accelerated. Sources claim he began documenting conversations, replaying events, questioning timelines, asking who knew what and when. This wasn't paranoia, insiders say. It was a man desperately trying to regain control of a story he felt slipping away. Those around him allegedly feared escalation, not public, but internal. Emotional burnout. Psychological exhaustion. The kind of collapse that doesn't trend until it's too late. And while no official statements exist, insiders insist the situation is far from resolved. Because unresolved tension is dangerous. It turns confusion into obsession, silence into suspicion, pressure into breakdown. People close to the situation say this isn't about scandal anymore. It's about survival in an industry that eats vulnerability and calls it entertainment. An industry where admitting distress is treated as weakness and silence is treated as guilt. And the most chilling part? According to multiple sources, this story isn't even halfway told. There are conversations that haven't leaked, messages that haven't surfaced, details that could shift everything if they ever come out. For now, Hollywood is holding its breath. Because if the pressure continues, if the silence remains, if the truth stays buried, the fallout won't be quiet. This isn't a rumor cycle. This feels like the opening chapter of something far darker. The night after the whispers turned into warnings, the atmosphere around the situation thickened. Not louder, heavier. According to insiders, doors that were once open began closing without explanation. Calls went unanswered. Messages were left on read. And in that quiet, the pressure reportedly intensified. People close to Kanye West describe a shift that felt irreversible. Not anger, not theatrics. Something colder. A man moving carefully, like every word could be used against him later. They say he started treating conversations like depositions, measuring tone, pausing mid-sentence, asking who else was listening. Sources claim legal language quietly entered the room. Not contracts. Not lawsuits. Precaution. That's when the narrative allegedly stopped being about feelings and started being about control. According to those in the inner circle, Kanye began insisting on written communication only. He reportedly asked for timelines, clarifications, corrections. What was said? What was implied? What was assumed? He allegedly wanted everything documented because he believed the truth was being reshaped in real time. And the more he pushed for clarity, the more resistance he felt. Insiders say advisors urged restraint, silence, patience. They allegedly warned him that pushing back would complicate things. That word came up repeatedly. Complicate. As if the truth itself was the problem. Behind closed doors, people claim conversations took on a courtroom energy. Not emotional. Strategic. Every sentence filtered. Every reaction noted. This wasn't about clearing the air. It was about minimizing damage. And according to multiple sources, that realization broke something in him. Friends say he began questioning everyone's loyalty. Not loudly, but methodically. He allegedly asked who benefited from the confusion. Who gained from delay? Who was protected by silence? And once those questions start, trust collapses fast. At the center of the tension remained Teyana Taylor, though insiders insist her role is far more complex than the public understands. Some claim she was just as surprised by how far things spiraled. Others suggest she became a convenient focal point while bigger forces moved quietly behind the scenes. No one agrees on the full story. Everyone agrees the fallout is real. According to sources, the industry responded the only way it knows how, by closing ranks. Conversations were reframed. Emotions were downplayed. The situation was allegedly reduced to creative differences and misunderstandings, even as those closest to it knew that explanation didn't come close to the truth. Kanye reportedly felt erased from his own narrative. People say that hurt more than the conflict itself. Insiders describe long stretches where he withdrew completely. No music sessions. No public appearances. No explanations. Just isolation. And when he did speak, it was reportedly about pressure. About being painted into a corner. About feeling like every move he made confirmed someone else's version of events. That kind of psychological weight doesn't explode. It suffocates. Meanwhile, those around him allegedly worried about escalation, not public outbursts, but internal collapse. They say he wasn't spiraling outward. He was turning inward, replaying conversations, reanalyzing intentions, trying to locate the exact moment everything shifted. According to one source, he wasn't asking what happened. He was asking why nobody would say it out loud. Social media only added fuel. Fans dissected his absence, his tone, his silence. Every post became a clue. Every gap became a theory. And with no official clarity, speculation filled the vacuum. Insiders claim that silence wasn't accidental. They say the longer the story stayed undefined, the easier it was to manage, to redirect, to dilute. Because once details harden into facts, control is lost. That realization reportedly deepened Kanye's frustration. People close to him allege he began preparing for the possibility that the full truth might never come out clean, that it would be filtered, softened, and archived as drama instead of what it felt like to him, a personal reckoning. Behind the scenes, sources say contingency plans were discussed. Not announcements, not interviews. Safeguards, emotional support, damage control. The kind of planning that only happens when those involved fear unpredictable outcomes. And here's the part insiders hesitate to say out loud. They claim this isn't about one incident. It's about accumulation. Years of pressure. Years of scrutiny. Years of being misunderstood while being watched. This situation, they say, didn't create the fracture. It exposed it. Those closest to Kanye allegedly believe the industry underestimated how deeply this cut. They assumed silence would pass. That time would smooth things over. That public attention would move on. But according to sources, the tension hasn't eased. It's calcified. Private conversations reportedly remain unresolved. Apologies unsaid. Clarifications avoided. And with every day that passes, the emotional distance grows wider. People who once acted as intermediaries have stepped back. No one wants to be the messenger. No one wants to be blamed for saying the wrong thing. Because in Hollywood, truth is risky. And according to insiders, that's exactly why the story refuses to disappear. Not because it's loud, but because it's unfinished. Those watching closely say the calm feels temporary. Like the pause before consequences. Like the moment when everyone knows something is coming, but no one knows who it will hit first. For now, there are no statements. No resolutions. No closure. Just a fragile quiet hanging over a situation that never truly settled. And those closest to it warn that unresolved pressure doesn't fade. It waits. And when it surfaces, it doesn't ask permission. The quiet didn't break the tension. It sharpened it. According to people still close enough to observe, the situation entered a phase that felt less emotional and more strategic. Not because feelings disappeared, but because everyone involved allegedly realized emotion was now a liability. Every reaction could be reframed. Every word could be archived. Every silence could be interpreted. This is when insiders say the story stopped belonging to any single person. They describe a slow transfer of control from individuals to systems. Lawyers didn't step forward publicly, but their presence was felt. Conversations allegedly became indirect. Messages were passed through intermediaries. Even long-standing friendships reportedly shifted into formal distance. When trust erodes at this level, nothing feels spontaneous anymore. Those observing Kanye West claim the weight of that realization settled in hard. Not rage, not theatrics. A kind of hollow focus. He allegedly became hyper-aware of how narratives are constructed, how timelines are edited, how responsibility is blurred when too many interests are involved. Sources say he began asking questions that made people uncomfortable. Who decides when a story becomes old news? Who benefits when clarity never arrives? Who gets protected when confusion stays intact? According to insiders, those questions weren't welcomed. People close to the situation say there was a subtle but clear shift toward containment. Not resolution. Containment. The emphasis allegedly moved to stabilizing optics, not addressing causes. Statements were drafted and undrafted. Strategies were discussed and abandoned. Silence remained the safest option. And that silence, observers claim, did not feel neutral. It felt intentional. Meanwhile, the name still hovering in the background was Teyana Taylor, though sources insist she was no longer the center of the tension. She had become part of a larger narrative, one shaped by assumptions, speculation, and industry reflexes. Some insiders say she tried to disengage. Others say disengagement wasn't possible once the story escaped private space. What everyone agrees on is this: clarity never arrived. Instead, the situation hardened into something unspoken but omnipresent. Like a verdict never read aloud. Like testimony sealed before it reached the record. Those closest to Kanye reportedly worried less about public backlash and more about internal exhaustion. They describe someone running out of emotional oxygen. Not spiraling outward, but compressing inward. Processing too much without release. That kind of pressure doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. Insiders say routines collapsed. Normal anchors disappeared. Creative spaces became quiet. Familiar collaborators stepped back, unsure of where they stood. The world kept moving, but his orbit reportedly shrank. And while fans speculated online, the people behind the scenes feared something deeper, emotional burnout without closure. According to one source, it wasn't about proving anything anymore. It was about surviving the waiting. Waiting for acknowledgement. Waiting for honesty. Waiting for an ending that never came. Hollywood, meanwhile, did what it does best. It moved on publicly while monitoring privately. Attention shifted. News stories took over. But insiders insist the situation never resolved. It simply went dormant. Dormant doesn't mean finished. It means unaddressed. Those who have watched this industry long enough say unresolved conflicts don't disappear. They resurface in unpredictable ways. Through behavior changes. Through sudden decisions. Through moments that seem disconnected until you trace them backward. And that's what has people uneasy now. Not because of what's visible, but because of what isn't. According to sources, there are still conversations that haven't happened. Explanations that were postponed. Apologies that were considered but never delivered. Each delay widened the emotional gap. People involved allegedly assumed time would dull the impact. That distance would soften the edges. That silence would be mistaken for acceptance. Insiders say that assumption may have been wrong. Because silence can also be a form of pressure. A constant reminder that something remains unresolved. That truth is suspended. That closure is conditional. Those closest to the situation describe a lingering tension that hasn't released. A sense that the story is incomplete, not because details are missing, but because accountability never landed anywhere. And when accountability floats without a destination, it weighs on everyone involved. Especially the person left waiting. For now, there are still no definitive statements. No timelines clarified. No clean conclusions offered. Just fragments. Hints. Carefully chosen words that say very little. But insiders warn that unresolved narratives have a way of resurfacing when least expected. Not always loudly. Sometimes quietly. Through decisions that confuse the public but make perfect sense to those who know the backstory. This isn't about scandal anymore. It's about the cost of unresolved pressure in an industry that prioritizes image over repair. And those watching closely say this story hasn't ended. It's paused. Waiting for the moment when silence stops being sustainable. Waiting for the moment when someone decides that unfinished truth is heavier than exposure. Because when stories are buried instead of resolved, they don't stay buried forever. They wait. This is the part where the story stops being entertainment and starts feeling uncomfortable. Because what insiders are hinting at now isn't shock for clicks, it's betrayal layered on top of silence, pressure stacked on top of exhaustion, and a system that chose protection over truth. According to people who claim to know the full picture, Kanye West wasn't just left confused. He was left alone inside a narrative that kept changing without him. And that's the part that hurts the most. Not the rumors. Not the speculation. But the feeling that when things got complicated, people stepped back instead of stepping up. Sources describe a man who trusted the wrong environment, expected honesty, and instead watched doors quietly close. Conversations ended mid-sentence. Explanations were postponed indefinitely. Accountability was replaced with strategy. And somewhere in that silence, emotional damage took root. Those watching closely say this wasn't a misunderstanding, it was abandonment disguised as professionalism. Meanwhile, Teyana Taylor remains a name tied to the storm, whether fairly or not, because when the truth isn't clarified, association becomes accusation. And in Hollywood, perception is often treated as more powerful than facts. This is how tragedies form without headlines. Slowly, quietly, behind curated smiles and unanswered questions. Insiders insist the story still hasn't reached its real ending. Too many conversations never happened. Too many wounds were covered instead of healed. Too many people chose silence because it was safer than honesty. And now the damage sits unresolved. So here's the question viewers need to ask themselves, not as fans, but as witnesses. When powerful systems stay quiet, who actually pays the price? When stories are buried instead of addressed, who carries the weight? And when betrayal comes wrapped in silence, is moving on really the same as healing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Speak freely. Share this if you believe silence protects the wrong people. Because some stories don't end when the noise fades. They end when the truth finally gets a voice.